Hello and welcome to the channel's book club. Our first guest in today's episode is Jamiu Abiola. Jamiu is a man with a love for the world and its diversity. He speaks over 11 languages and wrote his first book, Realistic Hopes, in Arabic before translating it to English. Jamiu is the son of the late Kudirat and M.K.O. Abiola. He joined us to discuss his book, his love for languages, and a few other interesting things. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll show you the interview with Jamiu Abiola. Jamiu, thank you for joining us on the Channels Book Club.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure having you here.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Okay.
You speak 8 languages. How did you learn that?
More than 8 languages.
More than 8?
They are 10, 11. 10 and a half.
I know you speak German.
I speak German.
You speak Spanish.
I speak Spanish.
French.
Yes.
You speak Hausa.
Yes.
Kanuri.
Yes.
Then you speak Arabic and Shua and Italian. How did you learn all those languages?
Well, what happened was that when I was a kid, I was just 9 years old. My father wanted us to go for a summer school in England. It's called International Community School. And that school, they had a lot of people from the Arab world, especially from Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. So most of the time, they speak in Arabic and they always make fun of us. So one time, I used to feel very bad. And I saw a black girl that came. And I was very happy that at least we have somebody from my own race. And I spoke to her, and she was looking at me strangely. And I saw her speaking to the rest of them in Arabic. I said, why? They now said she's from Sudan, and they also speak Arabic. So I now said, oh, my God, I'm going to have to learn this Arabic. So immediately I got back home, I told my father to give me a teacher, a private teacher, and he did. So when I come back from school, when I was in secondary school, primary school, I would now be, with the teacher every day. From there, I started going to the embassy, Saudi embassy, Egypt embassy, Sudanese embassy, and picking up their newspapers and all that. So by the time I went back to that same school the following year, I was speaking Arabic perfectly. Oh. And even the same students that saw me, they could not believe I was the same person. And they were asking that you could speak before, so why were you pretending? And I said I couldn't speak before, but they said I was lying. So that is how I realized that if I can learn Arabic, then I can certainly learn the other languages as well. And that is how I started from Arabic. I now learned French. Because my mother, Alaja Kudrat Abiola, she grew up in Zaria. So she and my grandmother used to speak Hausa all the time. And I used to feel very upset because they always speak. I didn't understand what they were saying. So I told her to teach me how to speak Hausa. And she did. So I would take an exercise book and I would write things down. Then after like 7, 8 months, I was speaking Hausa as well. I was practicing with her. From there, I now said I'll learn French. I now bought a dictionary. I memorized most of it. And I was using a program called Vocabulary. And I was able to learn French in a year and a half. Then I now moved on to Spanish. Then I moved on to German, using a program called Living Language. So and I memorized 1,000 pages to the point that even Germans meet me and they think I must have grown up in Germany. I'm speaking to them, and I read most of the time magazines and books in German, in Spanish, Italian, Arabic, French, and then I now learn Japanese, and I learned Indian as well.
You speak Japanese too?
I speak Japanese as well, yes.
Incredible. So, do you also write in those languages?
I write, what I do is that I write mostly in Arabic because, they say that a jack of all trades, you can't be doing everything all the time because writing is very, very detailed. So what I did is like my first book I wrote, Realistic Hopes, I wrote it in Arabic, and it was in pure Arabic. It took me like 45 days to write this book in Arabic language, and I, used a lot of their proverbs because I have memorized most of their proverbs. So the next book I'm writing now is also in Arabic, but the third book I'm going to write, I'm going to make sure I write it in German because I want to, try writing in German. So I'm going to be using different languages so that I can keep writing about different cultures and all that. I don't want to just be a normal writer that just writes in English. I want to use this talent that God has given me to do something, to make it meaningful, because I've put in a lot of time in it, and I think it will be a waste if I don't actually write about social issues and moral issues with these same languages. So that's why I always choose to always write in any language other than English.
This is absolutely incredible. Before we go into your book, your parents, how influential were they? Did they inspire you to write? Your late dad was Chief M.K.O. Abiola, and your late mom, Kudirat Abiola. How influential were they?
Yes, they encouraged me a lot, especially with the languages. And the writing, my father also encouraged me. And he didn't just encourage me by telling me that I should try to write. He also encouraged me by always using proverbs. Even at home, small, small things, he will use a proverb to say it. He will not just say it. So all of us used to make fun of him that if not that he was a businessman, he would have probably been a writer. Because he even knew more proverbs than even the intellectuals themselves. Always, and whenever we go anywhere, he's always taking notes of the proverbs. So I think from that angle, but in terms of like encouragement, it was more towards the language direction. The writing now came up when I started overreading, because I don't just read books in like English. I'll read a book in like 10 languages, and I'll be like Da Vinci Code. I've read a book in like 7 languages, and I've translated it back and forth.
7 different languages.
Yeah, the Da Vinci Code. I have it at home in German, in Italian, in Spanish, in French. So I'll be reading it and I'll be comparing it and seeing how good the translation was. So when I was doing it for so many years, I said to myself that, wait a minute, what if people are doing this? No big deal. I can write a book. I mean, what is the big deal? You just, look at exactly the message you want to send out, the moral message, then you now impact it and you now write it. And, so that was actually what actually helped me, because after reading like almost 1,000 books in like German, in Italian, in Spanish, in Arabic, in different languages, then it makes it easier for somebody to be able to write, easily in different cultures. So this book, for example, Realistic Hopes, it's like people think that this person that wrote this book must have lived in Egypt. But I didn't live in Egypt. But because I've been reading all these books and I have so much information, I can write. And luckily for me, the issues in the book actually goes to cover any developing countries. It's about aspirations, it's about challenges of poverty, it's about luck, it's about hard work, it's about earning a living, it's about real life. So some people read the book and they're like, wow, this is actually good. And they even buy it for their children so that they can actually know how they can actually should be thinking for them to make it in a very demanding and very, 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 very competitive world.
I mean, you just mentioned you've read about 1,000 books. You read a lot.
Yes.
You've written your own book now. Did you see your father read a lot?
Yes, he reads a lot. That's what he does. As a matter of fact, even in the plane sometimes, when he's supposed to be sleeping and resting, he'll be reading a lot. And that's why a lot of people say that he was very good with words, because if you read, you can talk. Because, when you read, you know how to speak very well, and when you read, you also know how to write very well. So that's the secret to writing. Once you read enough, anybody can be a writer. We just have to read.
Realistic Hopes, interesting title. What's this book about?
You just said it, realistic hopes. For example, you, the way you are right now, can you fly? If you jump on a building, can you fly? You can't. So that hope is not realistic, right? This book will tell you that if you want to know what your hopes should be, and you want to know whether you can make them come true, then make them realistic. By the time you make them realistic and you work hard and you always keep your conscience clear, then definitely God will help you and your efforts will help you because your hopes are realistic. So you see, the book is the foundation of life for any human being, because anybody that doesn't have realistic hopes will never make it in life. So the book is about realistic hope. It's the basic book, it's the basic theme for any kind of advancement for any individual or any country. For example, if you say you want your country to be this, then the hopes have to be realistic. A lot of people, the reason why they have problems today is because their hopes are not realistic. So I thought about that and I said to myself, I'm not going to just write about things that are very, very sundry or something that is very, very shallow. I want to write something that is deep, something that will make people know that if you want to do something, first ask yourself, are your hopes realistic? Musa, the hero of that book, was in love with a girl from the richest family in Egypt, but he knew that his hopes were not realistic because he was poor and he was a waiter, and he knew that there was no way it could happen, that the love would not work. Then luckily for him, because he was very bright in school, a minister gave him a job as a personal assistant on legal affairs, and he now got a good salary and he had a good package. So he now decided to pursue the woman because he now knew that his hopes now became realistic because his life has changed. Then, so the book, and again, he now wants to help his country by suggesting ideas to the minister to make the country move forward. So the book is first of all romantic and it's also political. So it's like double in one. So it's like he wants to kill two birds with a stone, get his love life in track, and also push his country forward. And his hopes are realistic because he had what it took to make them realistic. So that's the most important message of that book. And it could apply to anyone, to you, to him, to her. Anybody that wants to do anything, are your hopes realistic? That's the first question you have to ask yourself.
Jamiu, it's been a pleasure having you here on the Channels Book Club.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.